So if you take a moment to think back on your week, when was a moment that you delighted? Maybe later today, if you sit down in the afternoon, find a quiet 5, 10, a luxurious 30 minutes, and ask yourself, when did I delight in the last few days? This morning at the 9 o'clock service, we had a bit of a sharing, spontaneous about that, and we heard things like out shopping and having lunch with my friends, celebrating a grandchild's graduation, being together with people I love, being out in the streets, parading, being filled with hope and courage, working at quilting. A couple weeks ago, I snuck in here to Gloria Dei just to get a feel for the space and get to know some people on the staff and meet some of you. And while I was here, I saw that you have a quilting group. I could have stayed. I would have enjoyed to learn more about that. But it seems like you seem like a real production outfit. And so many blessings as you quilt this summer with Vacation Bible School. I hope that is a wonderful and delightful experience together, beside one another, using your hands and your feet and your whole being in doing something that you can find some rejoicing and delighting in. This week I rediscovered a joy I find in playing with fiber and working on the spinning wheel. Many years ago, some different people showed me how to get started, and I stepped away from that hobby for a few years, but suddenly it's back, and boy, you know, when you think your week is going this way and that way, and it's up and it's down, you know how life is. Something about holding the fiber in my hands and watching that wheel turn. There's some delight there. Remembering the people who taught me, maybe being beside them, maybe sharing a cup of coffee or some good food. There's some delight there. So when did delight make delight's self-apparent to you in recent days? You might ask yourself that sometime today. In one of the readings for this Trinity Sunday, we hear from the book of Proverbs, and we encounter the wisdom of God speaking to humanity, speaking to us. And what does wisdom say? What does wisdom call out to we children of the earth? Wisdom, who was with God before the foundation of the earth, even before the little bits of soil were made. And if you are a gardener and find delight in gardening, you know how much goes into just creating a little teaspoon of soil. I was delighting, wisdom says. I was delighting before God's face, like a master helper, as God laid the foundations of the earth and devised the creation with all of its beauty and diversity and relationships. And I was delighting before humankind, not standing far off, not with kind of an objective checklist like, yeah, you're doing a good job there, God, that's great. When's break time? Sometimes jobs are like that. No, delighting, right? Delighting before the face of God, delighting in creation, delighting in us, in you and me. Wisdom delights in us. And when we ask ourselves, knowing that life is difficult, that this world is difficult, when we let ourselves receive the gift of asking, when did delight show delight's face to me this week? It may be that the wisdom of God and the presence of God and God, the Holy Trinity, is peering in on us and delighting in us and letting us know that even when we don't know it, God is delighting in us. Something for your day, something for your week, something to sustain and nourish and encourage and fill you with hope. Because we have lots of opportunities in life for our character to get built up by difficult things. Thank you, Paul. And we can be thankful for God's faithfulness through those difficult times, and we can be thankful for those gifts, those touches of grace, those consolations when we know the delight of God. The delight that draws us into this world more fully, that draws us into relationships with other people, work that draws us into relationships. I saw the quilting group. It was abuzz with talk and focus and creativity and just like the delight of getting the stitch right, or so I imagine. And this delight renews us in our callings as human beings, each of us, our callings, our work, our vocation, our avocation, our hobbies, the things that satisfy and delight us. The giving of our lives and energy to God and with others. There's even a playfulness here. And there was a renegade Lutheran shoemaker who made a lot of the playfulness of God, even in a difficult world, that we not lose sight of the delight and the loving playfulness of the God who has made us in God's image. God, the Holy Trinity, who has made us in God's image and delights in us and invites us into creative, life-giving relationship with God and with this world. So I'm serious. Take a minute this afternoon, maybe this evening. When did delight show delight's face to you? What was happening? What did that feel like? What did the face of delight in God and with God look like? Well, and if my message is starting to sound a little too, a little too playful, a little too unserious, well, let's think about something out in the world today a little bit in light of delight. We've been hearing a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. And there are probably some good sides to that. There are some worries about that. There's definitely some people who stand to make a lot of money off of it, that's for sure. Turn it into information banks about us and our consumption patterns and turn it into weapons of war. There's some downsides and there's some upsides. And a question we might ask as people who walk around with, I don't have mine at the moment. I hope ours are turned off during worship. Our handheld computer. It's so useful for keeping in touch with people, isn't it? When we engage with our phones or with AI, all these things that supposedly the world that's where it's going. A technology, by the way, which is going to use vast amounts of energy, just as we are thinking about climate change and its effects on us and the poorest of the world and the creatures of the world, all the inhabitants of this world in which God delights. Maybe it's a good question to ask ourselves, where's delight in this, in our uses of technology? And are our uses of technology tending to rob us of delight? To rob us of human connection? To rob us of the truth that we are made in God's image? Or are our uses tending to draw us in to life-giving and loving relationships, into a creativity that builds up humanity and builds up the earth? It's a question to ask if you want a serious question to ponder. And if you're not quite in that mood, that's okay. But I don't want you to get away from this Sunday without asking yourself, what caused me delight in the past day, in the past week? What let that presence, that face, that knowledge of the love of God be just a little more evident to me? And where is that delight leading me?